We're about to dig into a story that should feel, well, a little too familiar. It's a story that proves this timeless, kind of scary truth about all of us. When there's a promise of easy money, we are all vulnerable to a very specific kind of madness. I mean, just look around. We are living through an age of complete financial absurdity. We've all seen it. People becoming millionaires, literally overnight, by trading JPEGs of rocks and cartoon monkeys. We see these charts for cryptocurrencies that just defy gravity. It all feels so new, so unique to our time.
But what if I told you this isn't new at all? That this exact brand of speculative insanity has a history that goes back way back. See, the hard truth is, when it comes to financial manias, the ghost in the machine is our own psychology, and that ghost hasn't changed one bit in over 400 years. That's right. Before any of the modern bubbles we know and love, the first great financial meltdown wasn't about tech or stocks or complex code. It was about a simple flower.
This is the story of Tulip Mania. It's a time when some of the most sophisticated people in the world's richest country got swept up in a storm, trading their entire fortunes, we're talking businesses, homes, their entire future, for a single fragile flower bulb. Let's get into how this all went down.
Okay, so to really get how this happened, you first have to understand the setting, because this wasn't just any place at any time. This was the Dutch Republic, right at its absolute peak.
In the 1600s, the Dutch basically ran the world economy. Their ships were everywhere, making them the wealthiest traders on Earth. Money was just pouring into Amsterdam, creating this brand new class of people with more wealth than they knew what to do with.
And you know what happens when people get that rich, that fast, right? They need ways to show it off. They need status symbols to prove they've made it. And that's when the perfect object of desire arrived. These flowers, brought in from the exotic Ottoman Empire, were like nothing Europeans had ever seen. The colors were just electric, the patterns were mind-blowing, and their rarity? Well, that was their superpower. Owning a rare tulip wasn't about gardening, it was a statement. It was the ultimate flex, a living jewel that screamed to the world that you were rich and important.
So what started out as a hobby for the super rich was about to morph into something else entirely. And this is the real turning point, where the story goes from botany to high finance.
So here's the problem. Tulip bulbs can't be moved during the frozen winter months, but the traders, they were getting impatient. They didn't want to wait. So they invented something brilliant and incredibly dangerous, a futures market. They started trading paper contracts, legally binding promises that guaranteed you'd get a bulb in the future. Suddenly, they weren't trading flowers anymore. They were trading promises. They were trading paper tulips.
And that financial innovation? It was like throwing gasoline on a bonfire. It introduced leverage. All of a sudden, you didn't need a fortune to buy a bulb. You just needed enough for the paper contract. And that blew the floodgates wide open. Everybody piled in, and prices didn't just go up. They went vertical.
I mean, the fear of missing out was just all-consuming. Everyone became a tulip trader. You had butchers, bakers, chimney sweeps quitting their jobs because they thought this was the ticket to Easy Street. Why would you work for a year when you could flip a piece of paper in a week and make 3 times your salary?
And this brings us to the absolute peak of the mania, the winter of 1636. By this point, the prices had become completely unhinged from reality.
Let this sink in for a second. At the height of all this, a single rare tulip bulb was selling for 10 times the annual salary of a master craftsman. We're talking about life-changing, generational wealth for one flower bulb.
Now, what's so wild about this is that it's based on an actual historical record. A single Viceroy tulip bulb was traded for this entire list of goods and livestock. Another one was famously traded for an entire mansion right in the heart of the city. I mean, think about that, trading your house for what is, at the end of the day, a fancy onion. This entire market, this whole house of cards, was propped up by one simple, powerful idea, the greater fool theory. The thinking was, it doesn't matter what insane price you pay today, because you are absolutely certain that someone, a greater fool, would be there to pay even more tomorrow. Prices would just go up forever. That was the dream. But what happens when that dream finally shatters? What happens when everyone looks around and realizes there are no greater fools left?
The end came in February of 1637. It happened at an auction in the city of Haarlem. A trader puts up a big batch of bulbs for sale. The auctioneer starts the bidding and is met with dead silence. He lowers the price.
Still nothing. Just silence. And that one moment of hesitation, that was all it took.
The panic was just a contagion. In a blink, the spell was broken. Everyone realized at the exact same moment that they weren't holding a winning lottery ticket. They were holding a worthless piece of paper and a simple root. Fortunes that took lifetimes to build just evaporated in days.
So, what's the point? Why does a 400-year-old story about flowers matter to us today? Well, because the echoes of this crash are all around us, and it offers a warning that is absolutely timeless.
See, the crucial lesson here is that the thing being traded, it almost doesn't matter. It was never really about the tulips. It was about the fundamental parts of human nature that always bubble to the surface when there's a promise of easy money.
These four things, greed, leverage, the herd mentality, and FOMO, they are the ingredients for just about every financial bubble in history. The assets change, right? Sometimes it's bulbs, sometimes it's houses, sometimes it's tech stocks or digital coins, but the underlying human behavior never, ever does.
And that is the ultimate takeaway. You've heard the saying, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. The only real defense against these cycles of madness is to recognize the pattern. It's about ignoring the hype, fighting that fear of missing out, and actually focusing on the fundamentals, the hard data.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to think about. Looking at the world around you right now, at the markets, at the headlines,